Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to welcome you to your final announcement for LAI 517 Media and Popular Culture. I join you from my home office this morning. Pardon the mess. It's the end of the semester for me, too. And I just wanted to take a second to thank all of you for your hard work this semester. It really has been fun kind of reading through your responses, looking at your projects, and engaging in this dialogue with you about the use of media and popular culture in the classroom. This is something that I really have a love for, but also something that changed the trajectory of my own studies and helped me develop a pedagogy that was much more rooted in the needs of my students. So, speaking of which, I want to just talk quickly about last week's readings and the idea of adolescence and adolescence. So, a lot of you talked about how you hadn't really conceptualized or thought about the fact that your understanding and your perceptions of this population were fueled by how they're presented to us in the media, or fueled by, kind of what everybody just says about this population. There is a lot of historical research that looks at the purpose of this time period and how it was kind of crafted. There were a couple of you that actually mentioned this in your discussion board posts, and I thank you for that. But if you guys are actually interested in understanding more about where the period of adolescence kind of began to be constructed as this, biologically fueled period in a young adult's life, I suggest that you take a look at some of the historical work. You might want to start with Erickson, and it does actually go a little bit farther back. For me, this was the semester, or the part in the semester when I took this class as a doctoral student. This was the part of the semester that kind of changed my trajectory. This is when I began to realize that my instruction and my pedagogy was significantly rooted in what I thought teenagers wanted. And I remember, kind of going through this teacher crisis in this moment where I thought, oh, what have I been doing all of this time? So, for those of you that are kind of really starting to think about how this might influence your pedagogy, I say go for it, run with it. And just remember that adolescence is not necessarily only fueled by biology. Sure, there are hormones and there are things that are starting to develop that do change the chemical makeup of a human being. We all go through things like that. But when it comes to our abilities and how we learn and what we're learning, everything is contextually dependent. So as you continue to work with this population, and as I continue to work with this population, I will continue to think about the ways that I can be true to them and to understand what it is that these students need. If we look at our students as individuals rather than an entire population, it can really help us to develop meaningful pedagogy for them. So, for the last project of the semester, you are required to construct a popular culture unit. So what does that mean? What it means is that I'm looking for you to construct a multiple activity sequence that could take place over a week. It might take place over a couple of weeks, maybe even a month, that incorporates popular culture and media in some way. Unit plans are like little packages that you implement within your classroom. For some of you, this might be the first time that you've ever constructed a unit plan. Others might be, this might be the 100th unit plan that you've ever constructed. I can assure you that I am not looking for perfection on these. I am really just looking for you to think about how you might incorporate these tools as a part of a sequence of lessons that you might use in your classroom. So whether that is an ELA classroom or a social studies classroom or a science classroom, or working with students from that are learning English for the first time or English as a second language, or working with adult learners. That's all I'm asking you to think about, is how these tools can be used as part of a multiple sequence versus just a one-time kind of situation. So I have given you all of the details about this in the week 15 folder. There is a folder entitled Final Unit Plan. You have access to this folder for a couple of weeks now. So this should not necessarily be brand new to you, but I do want to take a second to go through each of the parts. So the first thing that you have to do is a rationale. Now, like I said before, we've worked on this, and I have given you feedback on the rationales that you began to work. You really kind of want to think about this as a funnel. So you're first going to introduce your unit and the purpose behind your unit. Give a brief overview of the content, the goals, and the objectives. And you want to make sure that you're creating purpose so that you keep your audience reading. You're then going to very largely frame your unit using the coursework. You're going to draw on the course content, create this framework, think about what others are saying about the use of popular culture and media, and use this to help you support the relevance of your unit. You're then going to come down a little bit farther and give a brief overview of the literature and text that you're going to use, the tools, and the projects that students will complete. Now, you will also, once again, want to pull in support for the specific tools. So for example, if you are using social media as a part of your unit, you might want to draw on some of the social media literature at this part more specifically to kind of help support the purpose of that. And then finally, your rationale will end with talking about what students will gain from your unit. Why is it important? What can they take from this unit and move into the future? You want to make us care about your unit. I also want to make sure that you understand that your rationale must include references to course content. You will include an APA 6 reference page at the end of your unit. So this should only be about 3 or 4 paragraphs. You are doing this very briefly. You're looking at a 2-page document, maybe. Okay, so the next thing that you're going to do are come up with the goals, objectives, and standards that are associated with your unit. This is a 1-page kind of section that first identifies the unit's goals. So what are the goals of this unit? What is it that you want students to understand, and what is it that you want students to walk away from this unit with? You're then going to identify an essential question. For example, the essential question of this class was, what is real? You're then going to look at the student center objectives. So when you wrote lesson plans, your objectives were rooted in the idea of something that students will be able to do by the end of your lesson. The same thing is true, but this time think of it more broadly as far as the entire unit. At the end of the unit, students will be able to do what? What is it that you want them to be able to do? These need to be active objectives, just as they are for the lesson plans. So if you cannot complete the sentence, "Hey, Dr. B, come watch me." If you can't see it, then you need to figure out how to make it so that it is something that is observable. So, for example, identifying that students will be able to analyze a text is not enough. You need to talk about how you will know that they have analyzed the text. So students will be able to analyze a text by creating a found poem. Students will be able to analyze text by engaging in post-it annotation. Something like that. I can see that that is something that has happened. And then finally, you're going to identify anywhere from 5 to 7 Engage New York standards that your unit hits. So you can use the big anchor standards, that's completely fine. Or if you would like to go kind of deeper into them, that is also fine. I'm really just asking you to think about how these connect to mandated standard curriculum as a form of argument and creating purpose for the use of these tools within your classrooms. The next thing you're going to create is a text and supply list. So I want you to think about the text that you need, including the physical text, the digital text, the media texts, what technology you need, as well as what supplies. So if we think back to our class, the texts that we needed were the physical textbooks, so the SACS text, the CAR text, the Fahrenheit 451. The digital texts that we need were all of the articles that I provided you with. Media texts that we utilized were in the form of videos. The technology, we needed computers, we needed design software, we needed internet access, things like that. Think about, will your students need recording devices? Will they need access to a DVD player? Things like that. Think about the tech aspect of it. And then think about the physical and digital supplies. So paper, markers, magazines, digitally. Do they need memberships to particular websites? Do they need avatars or usernames or, social media accounts, that kinds of thing? Think about this as a grocery list. If you're handing me your unit and I go to Wegmans to purchase all of the supplies, what do I need to make sure that I have? Okay? The next thing will be a unit calendar overview. Now, this is also a one-page kind of document, and you're looking at what the unit looks like over time. So whether your unit is a week or a couple of weeks or a month, or maybe it's a couple of months, I want you to take a swing at kind of how it builds over time. This helps you to think about the way that all of your texts are implemented and can be used towards an end product. So if you're looking at a week, you would isolate this out by day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. If you're looking more at a month, you might truncate it a little bit and say week 1 will accomplish X, Y, and Z. Week 2 will accomplish X, Y, and Z. This can be a physical calendar. I think that that's the easiest way to do it. There are several calendar templates in the folder, but however you feel most comfortable, please feel free to take some liberty on this one. The next thing will be the breakdown of activities. What are they? Brief description, and 1 or 2 standards that each activity hits. Return back to my syllabus for an example of what this looks like. There should be at least 5 activities per unit. That's a pretty standard implementation at even the smallest unit. So I'm looking for you to just give me an idea of what it is that students will be doing. And then really do think about how, again, the standards are being utilized here. The syllabus is a really great place to get this information or examples of this. And then finally, you're going to take 2 of those activities and complete 2 lesson plans. You must use the provided template, they must be detailed, and they have to include media and pop culture tools as a part of the learning. Now remember, I gave you feedback that using technology and the internet are not the same as implementing popular culture and media in the classroom. You really need to be purposeful about how these tools are being utilized to further understanding. If you are simply asking students to visit a website to gain information, that's using tech. It's not the same as having students, watch a movie alongside the use of particular tools, or annotate a documentary, or compare a documentary to their textbook. That's kind of a different activity. So make sure you're being really purposeful about that. Go back to the week and the announcement that I posted with the feedback if you have any questions about what specifically these lesson plans need to cover. And then finally, when is it due? You have no other assignments this week except for a small Google Doc, but the due date for this is May 12th at 11:59 p.m. It will be uploaded to Schoology as an assignment. If you go in the Week 15 folder, you will see the Google Doc for the week as well as the final unit plan folder. In the final unit plan folder is this pop culture unit assignment submission. Please submit these as one document. It can be Microsoft Word. It's my preference because then I can leave you notes easier, or it can be a PDF, but it should be one complete document. Now, the size of this document will depend on how detailed you are and how much information you're putting into it. I am not looking for 30 and 40 page documents here, but I am looking for you to be thorough and detailed in your development of this unit. I will be giving you feedback so that you can use these in your classrooms. So, in reality, the more detailed information you give me and the more thorough you are now, the more likely you will be able to easily implement this in the future. So, again, I just want to thank you guys for an awesome semester. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions before Sunday. I will, be available and active to help you guys through this. And I hope you have an awesome week, and I can't wait to read your unit plans.